me, would you like to come and debate? I was first a little bit surprised, and then I was like, there's somebody that's not here to defend itself, and that's nature. So I will take the place of nature today, but also the place of a communication specialist that I am. So I feel there is a clear tension between nature's long-term goals, that is to be conducive to life and to perpetuate itself and to bring ecosystemic services to us, very anthropocentric, but there's a long time in nature, and as a communication specialist that worked also for the bad guys at point, not anymore. We are also always concerned with short-term results. And I see there's a clear tension between the long term of nature and the long cycles and the short term of reportings that are quarter to quarter. And I wonder if greenwashing is not at the center of this tension. As also a B Corp company, I am very sad to hear you guys thinking that greenwashing is great. Because the effort that is put in putting together your BIA, all the things you have to prepare, and then you get kind of defamed by bad actors in the system with other labels or not complying with the labels that are very clearly there for impact for the future and to help not only nature but also society. So it's a little bit disheartening when you're the ones doing the work right and you see that others are like piggybacking on your back. In nature, what would nature do? What would nature do if you have people piggybacking, right? There are places in nature for deception. You have flowers that mimic being insects to get pollinated. You have octopus that transform their shape into a rock in order to ambush their prey. There is deception, but always short term. In the long term, ecosystems function together and collaborate in order to perpetuate themselves. So I think, again, we have this tension, short-term gain, long-term collaboration is needed. And that's also what I try to bring through biomimicry and bioinfused principles to my clients, and to tell them that trust is only born over time and repeated interactions as they are in nature. Coevolution is what we need for a better future. So short-term gain in order to look good on your sustainability report for this quarter might mean that you're deceiving investors, clients, consumers, and basically yourself, because you're not trusting what you're saying either. Trust seems to be the last value we have, since money does not mean anything anymore. I also would like to check that, you know, in nature you would see one ape with all the bananas and the other ape with no bananas. We would ask ourselves, what's wrong? What's wrong with this ape? And in our society, we put these apes on the cover of magazines. So maybe there's something wrong with us. We should maybe look at long-term collaboration, long-term gain, and maybe mimic what nature is doing, and reinforce trust. Hence, greenwashing, destroying trust, is destroying our society in the long run. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Michaela. And now I pass the word to Joseph Naayem to conclude the case for the opposition. Joseph, to you.
Thank you so much. Let me grab the banana. Greenwashing, green hushing, rainbow washing. Have I missed one? Please, somebody. I'm sure there's so many since I started looking at this. There's only one thing they all have in common. Well, many things have in common, but one in particular: intentionality. We're in a world of perception management. So, whether it's mediatized, whether it's reporting politics, it's all about points, blame, you're pretending to be something you're not. And absolutely, greenwashing is not good. And please, as you vote, please make sure you understand the question. We are not arguing for greenwashing. The question is very specifically saying, does it do more harm than good? It's a relative question. And should we be focusing on the few that take the intentional action to pretend something they're not, or the other 80% that will not make the intention to do anything, pretend to do anything, or not even try. That is the problem, and I am with Mother Nature. Mother Nature is not helped by perception and sanctimonious, oh, beggar thy neighbor, or they are bad, we are good. Mother Nature is Mother Nature, and it's reality that counts. We're far more interested in the 80%, which are disincentivized from even trying because of the risk of being perceived as greenwashing. And that is a far greater harm, and that is the argument we're making. So as you're voting, please answer this specific question. Does it do more harm than good? We are certainly not advocating for greenwashing. Most of us have dedicated our careers to bringing the sophistication in that area to making sure that transparency comes along. The second point I wanted to make is that it doesn't matter anymore. It mattered when there weren't regulators, when regulators took their 10 years to figure out what are we doing beyond black and white risks and returns. But they're all coming in force. I mean, we heard with several speakers, those that actually helped form it, far too much reporting, but the regulators taking care of it. It's going to be regulatory obligation. Therefore, I'm going back to saying, as you vote, look at the actual question. Greenwashing is not fraud. We're not advocating for fraud. So if you're lying, whether it's because of nature, whether it's because of social issues, or because you didn't make as much money as you pretended to on your accounts, it's all the same thing. It's fraud. We're not debating anything about whether it's legal or not. That's part of what the law and the constraints upon which capitalism is allowed to make. Capitalism, we've tried the others, they didn't work, so capitalism is basically profits that are allowed to be made within the constraints that society decides, politically, regulatory, monetarily, and fiscally. Those are being put in place now. A couple of years ago, I would have been definitely on the other side and working towards it. Now, well, the question is about greenwashing. It's not about, is fraud okay? But more importantly, it's about the harm that is done when it comes to being scared of being perceived as greenwashing. And here I'll use a very tangible example and be rather provocative if I can and say, well, if we look at the definition of greenwashing, it's a relative term. It's what are you doing compared to the expectations and label that you have, whether you give yourself that label or you have it. And here, it might be controversial to say that we could argue that the biggest greenwashers in the financial system are development banks. Not Goldman Sachs, not UBS, that try and sell more products, that's their job. They're supposed to pretend. I mean, it's like advertising for any product. You watch advertising, you don't expect it to be the happy smiley faces on there. It's what banks do. Development banks, by definition, are responsible for taking public money and solving the world's problems, in particular with regards to climate. And there's a metric to measure how ineffective, they have done a fantastic job, they have done nothing close to the expectations. Why? Look at their credit ratings. There hasn't been a single default, there have been no downgrades. They are taking a fraction of the risk that their credit allows them to. They have something called contingent capital. Contingent capital means that you have a call option from the government to bail you out. Credit Suisse did not, but the market pretended it did. And they took a lot of excessive risk. So compared to the mandate a development bank has, it is doing very, very little. Why? Because every single employee is scared of being perceived as greenwashing. Political risk capital is far more important. How does reputational risk and how does getting fired because, wow, you work for a development bank or a UN agency or an NGO, and every single person will be first and foremost focused on their short-term incentives of not being perceived as doing wrong, at the risk of not doing what is necessary for the world. And therefore I will ask you one question. Innovation has always been one thing, so I'll finish on this one point. If you're not risking to be wrong, we will never come up with anything new, and we need a lot of new. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Joseph. As I said in the beginning, the audience will play a very important part of this debate. Before the two captains will get the chance to do their rebuttals, we have 12 minutes for questions from the floor. You can either ask a question to one of the two teams, or you can make a comment or statement. You're welcome to do so. Martin, can you please take the microphone? Or Puro, one of you guys. And please introduce yourself by name and affiliation before you ask the question or make the statement.
Hello, my name is Victoria Lefur. I'm co-founder Global Impact Alliance, and I would like thank you very much for this very interesting and useful conversation. I would like to ask this team, how do you think, what specific mechanism do you propose to tackle or fight greenwashing so that it does not lead to additional cost for small, middle businesses or higher price for consumers? Thank you.
So are there any specific person in the team that you're addressing to, or to the team in
It
general?
doesn't matter, just for this team.
Okay, I think we'll just take 2-3 questions before we allow each team to reply to the questions. You can give the microphone to Martin.
Hello, my name is Garrett Patterson. I work in the heavy-duty transportation industry, focused on zero-emission vehicles, working with Amazon and those types of companies that all have a climate pledge fund or other goals, ESG goals, that they're going to try to tackle, regardless of what the regulatory framework imposes on them. And looking at the recent events in the US with Trump, the Trump administration will likely roll back all of the major regulatory frameworks that are being put in place to continue to move towards zero emission and the decarbonization of heavy-duty industries. It's up to the individual companies themselves, and more specifically, like you said, the market to force these companies towards some sort of regulation. So I agree 100% with your point that if you are greenwashing like any other financial market, the market will force you towards self-correction because of the implicit risks of being perceived as a greenwashing entity. So it would do the company more harm than good, but it will do society good because the market will force them towards self-regulation.
Any more questions? We still have 5 more minutes. The captains, they will answer your questions during their rebuttal. So, yeah.
The question for the opposition team. Somehow, if I agree with the point that greenwashing does enable the initiatives to be taken, and it's not about what harm they are doing, but how much harm they are doing. Where do we keep that cap? Like this much harm is allowed, or this good or bad? How do we keep this tab, or the check and balances? What can be check and balances for this?
Okay. Any more questions from the floor? Yeah.
Hello, yeah, thank you to have me. My name is Edo Ofwe, CEO of Observers International based in London. I need to point forward regarding the president of Azerbaijan, Baku, who already mentioned that oil and gas is a gift from God, and I can guess out that oil and gas is a curse for African country. My question goes for the right hand side, how we can match both together and see that multinational company where we take, and we still take oil and gas in Africa. We don't take about ESG, know about SDG. Can be a specific tell me why we still behave in that way. Thank you.
Okay. Still have a couple more minutes for Q&A from the floor. Any last comments, questions, observations?
Hello, my name is is Andres. I'm a student at University of Geneva. It's not really a question, just, well, I guess it's the appropriate moment to comment. And I just wanted to say that so far from the conversation, thank you very much, I would probably say I'm leaning towards this team. I just want to say I believe greenwashing to be just a trendy marketing trend for companies and for all of these organizations to just sell out a message. And so far what I've seen from greenwashing is that it's just a marketing tactic, which is completely common in sort of system that we live in. And from any marketing tactic, all of the washings that you mentioned, it seems to me as if it's just what they want the people to perceive. And in my personal opinion, I feel like it's more of a measure, it's more of a symptom of goodness. Like, if we need to have this conversation, I believe it's just, we can see it as a positive thing that we are having the conversation. And again, I think the key issue is more on the regulatory aspect, on the governmental aspect, on the, if you see, for example, companies like fashion industry companies that they are mainly environmentally harmful to the environment on the actual production, on the actual waste disposal, and then they come out and then they put out that they started packaging with plastic and they started doing paper packaging, and then, well, of course it's greenwashing, and of course it's not